Hello, how are you today? Do you want to dive into a book that might just surprise you, whether it becomes your next favorite or one you might skip? Let's find out what readers are saying about it.
Chloe, who has 181 likes, says, "How many times is Kristen Ciccarelli going to make me take a bullet through the heart? And how many times must I endure whiplash? Do it again. Dual POV, yearning, and enemies to lovers will do it for me every single time. I am just a girl." Gideon plus Rune Forever Book Club read. Read with us here. Emma Halbrook, who has 191 likes, says, "Perfection. This duology has my whole entire heart. I couldn't love Gideon and Rune more if I tried. Everything about it, from the plot, world building, and magic to the romance, tension, and banter, is top notch. I will forever be rereading these books until the end of time. BC, I will never accept that it's over." April Catching Up, who has 167 likes, says, 5 stars. If this was weakness, he wanted to be weak. If this was sin, let him be damned to hell. While Heartless Hunter left me in shambles with a broken heart, this one did what I needed it to and healed my heart. Rebel Witch is the second installment in the Crimson Moth duology. The magic and world building were top tier, and add to that the action, fast pace, and slow burn. I was entranced from beginning to end. She had me guessing at so many turns, and I was excited to find out what would happen next. Stop, because why did this make me cry at certain scenes that I wasn't expecting? Rune is on the run after being outed for who she is. The only choice that she feels that she has is to ally with the cruel Witch Queen. Gideon follows her with one thing in mind: to capture her and follow out his precious orders. However, Rune has a plan that Gideon is unable to refuse, and they must join forces to succeed at the one goal they agreed on. Rune Winters showed herself to be even stronger here, and she did shine. She is so clever, kind, and brave. We get to see how truly layered she is and the depth that she has. I loved watching her grow and learning more about herself and who she is. Watching her come into her own and learn her powers was one of my favorite things about her. Another was seeing her face her fears, not giving up, and coming out stronger. She is the perfect character in my eyes. The Crimson Moth only ever pretends to be prey. In truth, she's the predator. Gideon Sharp appears to be gruff and uncaring, but once you peel back his depth and layers, he is kind, compassionate, and even has vulnerabilities and weaknesses. We get to see here that he truly is a tortured soul as we watch him battle his inner turmoil of whether he should continue on the path of doing what he set out to do or what he feels is right. He exuded so much growth. I just love everything about him. Can we talk about when he gets jealous, protective, and the "who did this to you?" This combination had me swooning even harder for him. What the hell do you think you're doing with my wife? Rune and Gideon were the perfect combination. They evened one another out with their cat and mouse dynamic. The way that enemies to lovers was done so perfectly, making the romance chef's kiss. Their constant banter had me cracking up at every turn. And my gosh, the tension, angst, betrayal, secrets, and longing was so good. Throw in the mix their chemistry and the way that it all just fits together and was built up to make the perfect romance between them. I loved the way their love for one another overcame everything that was thrown in their direction. It was the perfect balance. It might look like weakness on the surface, but in truth, it's tougher than steel. Love can't be controlled. Love can't obey unjust laws. Love will always oppose tyrants. The found family aspects of this were so good. Rune and Gideon each had their form of found family, and they became more and more one as the story was nearing the end. There were a couple that had me wanting to see more of them at some point. The relationship between Harlow and Juniper has me intrigued. I would love to see their story. Then there is Bart and Antonio, who seem to be the sweetest couple. From what we see of them, they balance one another out well, and Antonio is wise with knowledge and insight. I need their story as well. This being a duology was perfect. However, I would be lying if I said that I didn't wish that we got more of Gideon and Rune. I would love to see them years later. Who knows, maybe someday she will give us crumbs of them and I would be happy with that. This kept me guessing at times and on the edge of my seat for what was going to come. I wasn't expecting the twist towards the end that had me a sobbing mess on an airplane. Since I read the last 20% leaving for my vacation, I was then left with happy tears after the heartbreak, which I am thankful for. Anyway, go read this duology if you haven't. You will not be disappointed. Favorite quotes and moments. I may not know Rune Winters, he whispered, his mouth an inch from hers. But I know the Crimson Moth. And she is no caged thing. There was a part of Rune's soul, most of it. Maybe that yearned for adventure. That craved a challenge. That liked a little danger. I am not a girl to you. Am I? I am a witch. And always will be. Something to be hated and hunted down. Not cherished or protected. Not loved. You are far worse than a thorn in my side, he said, his dark eyes gleaming at her. You are a knife in my heart. Live in the darkness too long, and eventually you won't recognize the light, he told her. You'll become like the monsters you hate, because I was stupid enough to fall in love with a witch hunter. Stupid enough to hope he might love me back. And if he did, I wasn't going to let anything come between us again. Sometimes our paths must diverge from those we love. But if love is the highest power, our paths will converge again, if not in this world, then the next. Pre-read. Jumping right into this after the last book left me a mess. Please heal my heart, Gideon. Krista, who has 168 likes, says, if this was weakness, he wanted to be weak. If this was sin, let him be damned to hell. Wait. 'Cause why was this so damn good? This book was a million times better than book 1, which I did like, but the author somehow managed to fit so much into this without it feeling like there were pieces missing. Words can't describe how much Rune grew on me. Her character arc was incredible and the romance was everything I wanted it to be and more. The plot is action-packed and doesn't let up. Something about this duology is just so compulsively readable. All the stars. Darling, he said, walking backward. I know you're scared. I know this is hard. But I need you. Who else can show them the way if not a witch and witch hunter? Fighting side by side? Darling? From Mr. Gideon Sharp? Sedate May liked that the author didn't keep Rune and Gideon apart for long. They're at each other's throats from the jump, and there was a bit more of that cat-mouse dynamic that I loved from the first book. Rune went through a lot over the course of the story, and it was really interesting to me to see her sort of broken down, especially since she had been seen by everyone around her as nothing other than a force to be reckoned with. She also is the one who takes the initiative when it came to rekindling things with Gideon, even though he had his own ways of showing her his love and devotion. There's so many scenes in here that stood out to me and a few reveals that I wasn't expecting at all. The ending hit me right in the feels. The lengths these two would go to for each other and the things they'd be willing to give up to guide the other back into the light was genuinely killing me in the best and every way. I still am of the opinion that these read more na than ya for several different reasons, but I am just so glad that I didn't have any issues with the way the author chose to wrap up Rune and Gideon's story. Something about this book just worked so well for what I needed at the time. Obsessed by. Shall kill us both. Gideon stared at her. Then it will be an honor to die at your side. Many thanks to NetGalley, the author, and St. Martin's Press for the arc. All opinions are my own. Hoda, who has 167 likes, says, sometimes our paths must diverge from those we love. But if love is the highest power, our paths will converge again, if not in this world, then the next. OMG, this was so good, like OMG. I loved it SM. I loved the first book, but OMG, this was something else. The way I was hooked from the very beginning, and I never lost interest the whole time I was reading. And I be reading some other book beside this, but find myself thinking about this one and wondering, what is gonna happen next? Yes, even though the plot was very predictable, it didn't bother me because I was having the best time still reading about everything and the characters and the romance. The angst, the longing, everything was so good. If this was weakness, he wanted to be weak. If this was sin, let him be damned to hell. Kissing Rune was like a realignment. There was before, when everything was off its axis. And there was after, when everything was steady and right. Rune and Gideon, I love them. No, because you don't understand the way they went from enemies to lovers to enemies to lovers was so perfectly done, and OMG, their struggles to trust each other in this one and their plans against each other had me screaming like OMG. The longing and their love for each other, perfect. Gideon, my man, why you're so fine, PLSSS, I love him SM. The last couple of chapters had me crying. Because like what was happening in there, the way they kept suffering, I was screaming at the top of my lungs for the suffering to stop. I love them, my babes. SSS Harrow and Juniper, I was so invested in their story as well. It seemed so angsty, I wanted more. Overall, I really loved this and indefinitely recommend. I had the best time reading it with Maria and sharing my thoughts and crying and screaming over everything with her. Such a fun time. The problem with love is the more you try to destroy it, the stronger it becomes. It might look like weakness on the surface, but in truth, it's tougher than steel. Love can't be controlled. Love can't obey unjust laws. Love will always oppose tyrants.